Ho, 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 YouTube. Merry Christmas to everybody. Happy holidays. Feliz Navidad. Prospera Año Felicidad. I don't know why I just said that. I don't know. Probably because I just heard the song. It's almost Christmas. And today's video is going to cover our Windows Lab Part 2. We're going to actually create a Windows 10 Pro virtual machine. I'm going to show you how to create what they call a gold master image, and then how to Sysprep that image, export it, and then import it into our lab environment. So that'll be pretty much the gist of today's video. I don't know that I'm going to make a video next week. I'm certainly going to try, but my schedule is already incredibly busy. I don't know why. Usually around the holidays it's very quiet. But for this year, for whatever reason, it's gotten extremely busy, and maybe it's the cold bringing people out. I'll show you what the weather's like here in a second. So anyway, that's what we're going to do today. But next week, I don't know if I'm going to do a video. If nothing else, I'll do a vlog video, a catch-up video on what all is going on. I still haven't done my server rehab yet. It's still been too cold outside. In the days that it was warm, I've had to do other things. So we still haven't gotten around to that yet, but we will. And so sit back, relax, and enjoy this video on creating our Windows 10 Pro machine in our lab environment and getting it ready to join our domain. So here's what our weather's like right now. We had a cold front come roaring through last night, and I do mean roaring. It was blowing and going out there. We had 30, 40 mile an hour wind gusts. So, but this is what our winters are like in South Texas. So a lot of you up north and a lot of you over in Europe are going, is that Fahrenheit? That's a summer or spring day. But no, here it's very cold for us, and this is what kills you. This is what people down south are not used to, is you get into that wind chill and you'd say, oh no, it's like a freezer out there, and it is. So, and it's not going to get any better over the next few days. In fact, here's what they're calling for, in the 40s and 50s. So, yeah, we get a couple of cold days and nights. That's a little troubling. That's awfully cold, 26, but hopefully my pipes will be able to handle it. So I'll need to go out tonight and make sure they're covered up really well. All right, back to what we were talking about. All right, so let's get started. So let me bring up my other machine here that is running Hyper-V, the one that we created in the previous videos. And you can see we got Lab DC1 up here not being used. So what we're going to do is create a new virtual machine. We're going to let the wizard come up. We're going to click Next. And we're going to call this W10-64-Gold. This is going to be our gold image for our lab that we're going to create all our other Windows 10 images from. So we want to name it properly before we create it. So when we export it, it has this name. Okay, it's going to be a Generation 2. Next. We're going to give it 2 gig of RAM. So 2048. We're going to connect Subnet 5 to it. And we're going to go ahead and create a virtual hard disk, as you can see here on this screen. However, we're going to put it in the proper location. So I'm going to browse here, create a new folder, and we'll call that W10-64-Gold. And you know what? We need to put a P on this because this is Windows 10 Pro. So let's correct that here. And see, make sure they're correct. 127 gig is fine for the file size. We're going to install an OS later, and then we're going to finish it. And then we're going to fix the name up here by right-clicking and going to Settings. And we come down here to Name. And the reason, like I said, I'm putting the P at it is so I know that this is a Windows 10 Pro image and not a Windows 10 Enterprise. If it were Windows 10 Winners, if it were Windows 10 Enterprise, it would be W10E-64-Gold. Alright, so let's go to our File Explorer here and make sure that we've put our ISO out here for Windows 10 Pro under the D drive. And let's see, there it is. Yeah, Home and Pro 1607. Okay, and then we're going to have to do updates, so let me go to my apps folder on my SAN or my NAS and check Windows updates and make sure I've got them. Yeah, I just did them on December 11th, 2016, so I have the most recent, well, the most recent as of this video, Windows 10 updates. So go back into Hyper-V. We now want to attach a DVD drive to this SCSI controller, and we're going to have it boot off of that DVD image under our ISO folder. We're going to apply, and then we're going to come down here to the boot, and we're going to move the DVD drive up. I don't know that this is necessary. This is just the way I do it. Your mileage might vary. So I'm going to go ahead and now right click and connect and click on the start button. And you have to be quick. You have to hit that any key. Okay, so we'll select the US language, US time and currency, and US keyboard. Click next. Going to install now. Now it should come up and give us an option to choose what version I want to install, Home or Pro. Alright, I'm going to tell it I don't have a product key. And yeah, it gives us a choice between Windows Home and Windows 10 Pro. So we're going to do 10 Pro. I'm going to accept the license terms, and I'm going to do, I always do custom. I'm going to choose custom. I'm going to choose that unallocated hard drive. And we'll let the installation run, and we'll come back when it's complete. Alright, so Windows 10 is installed. It has rebooted a couple of times, and now we've come up to the setup screen. Now normally I would tell you to go through and customize this screen to your liking, and if you check out Barnacle-Y's Nerdgasm's YouTube page, he can tell you what these settings should all be to keep Windows from spying on you. But for me, for right now, since all we're doing is creating an image, I'm going to use the Express settings just to get through the setup. So it's now asking us who owns this PC, but I'm going to tell it my work or school owns it. If it were your own personal one, you'd use I own it. But for our lab, we're going to tell it the people that I'm working for own it. Here's the drive that I'm going to put into it. It's a Crucial Serial ATA 3 drive. It is a 275 gigabytes, so that should be enough for the virtual machines we're going to run. If we need more storage space, we'll deal with that. So we can either we can choose how we'll connect. I'm going to choose Join an Active Directory domain. Click next, and we actually won't join it now. It just tells us it'll prepare Windows so we can join it. Okay, so I'm going to enter my username and my super secret password. It's always wonderful to see these things just zipping right along here. No, I don't want to use Cortana. No, thank you. Not now. Alright, we're coming up to the wonderful Windows 10 screen. And they're happy we're here. Well, if you're happy I'm here, where's my desktop? Why don't I have a screen with icons on it? Oh, I see. They're getting things ready. this could take a while. And so now we finally come up to our main Windows screen, and it's asking us about networks. So you know my answer here. I say yes, allow it to be discoverable. Now, what should have happened is this machine should have gotten an IP address from my 5 subnet, because I don't currently have the DHCP server running on the lab. So we're just going to verify that real quick. I right-clicked on network connections and told it to open that for me, and we're going to go see if we do have a valid IP for our subnet. And we do. It gave us 5.27, so that's good, because we still haven't Sysprep this image, so it doesn't even know it's going to be part of our lab computer. So I'm going to do everything here as if it were going to be a computer on my existing domain, mcs.local. So then what we'll do next is I want to actually run, I was going to try to get rid of all this crap down here, but I forget you can't do it till you activate Windows. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to run Windows updates, and I'm not going to do it in the normal fashion. I'm going to come out here to File Explorer, and I'm going to go to my network and find my SAN unit, and I'm going to use offline updates to actually run my updates. CS-SAN1, see if it'll find it that way. There it is. Alright, so I'm going to go to the apps folder on my network and come down here to Windows Updates. Now, I like to copy this file over onto the local hard drive and run it off of there. So that's what I'm going to do, and then when we're done we can get rid of this file. It doesn't much matter. Plus it'll give you an idea how fast files are going to copy over your gigabit network. I'm going to create a new folder, and I'm just going to call it Updates. So you do well to do the offline updates about once a week. Sorry about that. And we'll paste that file. I would run it about once a week, once every 2 weeks, depending on how high or how fast your internet connection is. And the speed on it, yeah, it should come up to 100 megabits, or average right around there. That way you make sure you have the most up-to-date updates before you do them. Alright, so the file is now copied over, so now we're going to go ahead and right-click and choose Mount, and that'll mount it as a CD or DVD image, and we're going to run this program called Update Installer. Now, this task manager you're seeing is on the actual Hyper-V server. It's not the task manager for Windows 10. You would, if that were the case, you'd see a lot more saturation, I'm sure. So we're going to run it, and we're going to let it go ahead and start. No need to let you sit here and see this thing running. Again, it's called the WSUS Offline Updater. You can just do a Google search on it. I'll put a link in the notes on the show, in the Show More area. So just go there if you want to find out where this is. And I'm going to let this run through all the updates, and we'll come back when all of this is complete. But let it run and keep running it until it says there's nothing to do. Once it tells you it's completed and there's nothing more to do, then you'll know you're up to date on your all of the programs. So we'll let that run and we'll come back. Alright, so our updates are now finally complete, and I frankly cannot wait until I get the SSD drive installed in this unit, because I don't know how I ever survived with this machine being a Hyper-V server. I don't remember it being this slow. Maybe there's something I'm missing, or maybe just server 2016 has not been tweaked quite as well as it could have been. It is still, it's just out of its final beta So we'll see as updates roll along how it does speed-wise. And then we'll see what a drastic change the SSD drive will make. But for now, let's go ahead and sysprep this machine so we can export it as our gold image, and then we will put the SSD drive in. So let's click on the Windows button, and we're going to go to File Explorer, not the Windows button. And unfortunately, I cannot customize any of this down here till I activate Windows, which I'm not going to do on this machine yet. So we're going to go to our local disk, we're going to go to Windows, and we're going to go to System 32. So now would be right before you, well, let me start over. I'm sysprepping this machine now because it's in a state where I'm ready to make a copy of it and use that copy as my master image. But say you were in a production environment and you know they're going to need Microsoft Office, you know they're going to need Google Chrome, you know they're going to need this, that, and the other program. You can go ahead and preload those programs onto your image as well. So I could load Office 2010, 2013, whatever on here, Chrome, whatever other applications I want before I sysprep it. So keep it in mind, I'm doing a very basic setup of a Windows 10 machine, just making a bare bones image with no Google Chrome, etc. So now let's just verify we've got everything set up here correctly. So we've got this image named W10P-64-gold. If we right click on it and go to settings, let's make sure our hard drive is named properly and it's in the proper location, and it is. It's under the Win10P-64-gold subdirectory, and there's the VDX file. Alright, and let's see, where is it set? It's set to boot from a file. For the EFI boot image, as you can see right here. Alright, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead. I've verified all those settings are correct. It's got the file in the correct location. Let's go ahead and run sysprep on this unit and get it prepped. Alright, so according to MSDN, this is the command I need to use in a administrative command prompt, so that's what I'm going to do. And we will see, nope, it's unable to validate your Windows installation. Okay, so we need to look that error message up. Alright, so now Sysprep is running. The problem was that there were a couple of apps that were installed that couldn't be. One was Candy Crush Soda, the other one was Skype. So I had to actually uninstall those two applications before Sysprep would run without an error. So just be aware that in Windows 10 you want to make sure that you don't have any apps, the Metro apps installed like Candy Crush and Skype and that kind of thing. And there's a file in that Sysprep folder under the Panther directory that will tell you where the action failed and what app is causing the problem with Sysprep. When you run Sysprep on Windows 10, you should just install Windows 10 as a base image and Sysprep it there without doing any updates. In other words, you're supposed to Sysprep, like, say for example, we installed the 1607 image. We should have just Sysprep that bare as it was. Now that's according to MSDN, and that was an article from last year. So I don't know if things have changed, but this is how I've always sysprepped images, so your mileage may vary. But we'll let Sysprep run, and we'll come back when that's done, and we'll go ahead and export the virtual machine. Alright, so it appears that we were successful in sysprepping that image. So we're going to enclose that window, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to now right-click, and we're going to export this image so that we can use it as our moving forward as our gold image. So I'm going to browse, and remember, if I go to my PC, I'm not going to see my network drives down there. I have to actually go to the network connection, and let's see if it populates. Nope. So we'll go back, type in the name of our NAS machine, our SAN machine, and we have a folder there called Backups and then Exports. And look, there's our lab domain controller we created in our previous episode. So we've chosen our export folders, and we're going to select it, and we're going to go ahead and tell it to export that image. And we will let that run, and we'll come back when that's done. All right. So let me show you here. I have the SSD drive now installed. That's this one right here. And so now what we're going to try to do is import that Windows 10 machine that we just exported, but we're going to import it and place it on the new SSD drive. So we're going to go up here to Import, click on Next. We're going to go browse to the folder where I have that file. Let's see here, SAN 1, Backups, Exports, Windows 10 P-64-Gold. Select that folder, Next. It sees our virtual machine in there. To copy the virtual machine, create a unique ID. And let's see here, the virtual machine is going to stay on the D drive. So we're going to accept these defaults, and it should see the new E drive. And it does. And so we're going to go ahead and create a folder called W10P-Lab1. So Windows 10 Professional Lab Unit 1. So select that folder, Next, and verify all of our settings here. So it's going to import the Windows 10 Professional 64 Gold image from our backup location, and it's going to import it into the E drive. The virtual machine is going to stay on the D drive, and we'll go ahead and click on Finish. Alright, so now we have our gold image imported, and we're going to right click on it and go to Settings, and we're going to make sure everything appears to be there. It does. One thing I want to do is give it a new name, and we are going to call that Win10P, and we'll change that to Lab 1. We're also going to change the name of the hard drive to reflect that as well, but we don't do it here. We need to come down to File Explorer here, go to the E drive, and we'll rename this W10P Lab 1. And now we need to change our settings here to reflect that change in name. We'll apply that, tell it OK. Now let's see how fast this thing boots up coming off the SSD drive. And we'll see if it boots any faster off this SSD. Now this is the first time we're booting this image up. Let me go to my overview here, and you can see what kind of disk activity we're getting. See if it seems any faster booting off that SSD. Now keep in mind, this motherboard on the serial ATA, it's limited to serial ATA 2. Yeah, speeds, not serial ATA 3, even though the SSD drive is capable of supporting those speeds. Alright, so now we're back at the startup screen, our initial startup screen for Windows 10. Everything in here looks correct, including our time zone, so we're going to click on Next. And I'm not going to put a product key in. I'm going to do this later. And I'm going to accept their licensing terms. I'm going to use Express, even though I don't recommend that in a production environment. You're going to need to go in and tweak those settings based on your needs. And again, you can check out Barnacle,'s YouTube site. He's got a whole video on there on removing a lot of that crap out of Windows 10, and there are other videos out there too that cover it as well. I'm not going to try to cover it in this video. So the machine is now booted up. Again, I haven't noticed that it's any faster on the SSD, but you see something interesting here. So here it's the first time we've set up Windows 10 on this lab machine. We've taken it out of Sysprep and ran an actual setup on it, and you can see, look at what's pegging my CPU here. Microsoft OneDrive setup. I haven't used OneDrive in nearly 2 years because it's a piece of shit, and yet here it is being thrust upon my machine. All I'm trying to do is get a lab machine set up, and this is the kind of crazy shit. I'm wondering what's eating up all my CPU processes, and you notice there's nothing on the screen that gives me the option to tell it, oh yeah, I want OneDrive, because I don't. So Microsoft is forcing this upon me, thrusting it upon me against my will, and running it in the background, the install process. So we're going to let Windows stabilize, Windows 10 stabilize. I'm going to let the CPU usage come down. I'm just going to let this machine run and complete any setup items that it's got left. And when the CPU usage gets down to a reasonable level, alright, so it's calmed down a bit. Man, oh man, oh man. If it isn't OneDrive setup trying to run, it's freaking Cortana. See, here it is. I don't understand what Microsoft's trying to do with Windows, but it's really pissing me off. So we're back up to our Windows 10 screen. It's rebooted. Let's go ahead and log in. See how long it takes to come up. I've kept Task Manager up here, or Resource Monitor up here, so you can see what kind of hit the system is taking. What Microsoft has done is they want to present you with a desktop as quick as possible, so they don't actually complete the setup after your first reboot. It's still running processes in the background, eating up all your resources, and this is what drives me crazy when I'm creating a virtual version. I wish they just had a slimmed down version I could run, like their enterprise version. In my mind, it was supposed to have been a slimmed down version of Windows 10 that was just had all the superfluous crap removed off it, but that's not the case. That is not what they did. It used to be with Windows 7 Enterprise, you didn't have all this crap loaded on here, and you can see it's all running in the background, eating up my valuable CPU cycles and pegging my processor at 100%. But there you have it. So we now have our Windows 10 Pro Lab 1 machine set up. But what I'm going to do now is end the video here on installing the Windows 10 in the lab environment, and we will revisit this machine as we continue on with the lab series. But for now, that's going to be the stopping point here on this video. So there we have it. We now have our domain controller set up in our lab. We've set up a Windows 10 Pro lab machine to run on here, and it's still got 99% processor utilization even after the install. So I'm going to let that run and make little notes about how long it took for Windows 10 to get everything stabilized to where it wasn't using 99% of my processor. I'll just keep the performance tab open so I can keep an eye on that. This is what's really annoying a lot of people about Windows 10. Windows 10 is a great operating system. It is optimized. The networking stack in there has been redone, which makes it a lot faster on the network, a lot more stable. But the problem is they've pasted all this crap into Windows now that nobody wants. I don't want it. And I'm talking strictly in a corporate environment. I can't tell you the number of IT guys I've spoken with that are just so fed up. They're not going to Windows 10. They're going to keep on Windows 7 or Windows 8.1. Well, not a lot of them, but mainly they're going to stay on Windows 7 until they are actually absolutely have to change it. Hell, they're still running XP in some instances. But this stuff for Windows 10 is great, I guess, if you're a consumer and you use any of that crap that they put in there. But it's so loaded with this crapware now that you can see how long it took me to install it, just trying to get it to come up and stabilize. We're still looking at 100% utilization. All right, well, I'm off on a rant, and I don't want to keep ranting about it. This is episode number 2 in the Windows Lab series, and we actually finally got through the install. We even put the SSD in there in the hopes that would speed it up. It has a little, but not a lot. This is why I want to get that other Dell R710 server in here, so I have a machine that is actually able to virtualize machines. I think part of the bottleneck on this is that AMD processor on there as well. It's just not designed to do what I want it to do. But funds allowing, next year we'll go ahead and get that other Dell server in here and use that strictly as a virtualization for a lab environment. And I'll put that SSD that I put in there somewhere else. Anyway, hope you found this video helpful and informative. And if you did, give us a thumbs up down below. And we'll see you on the other side. Bye-bye.